Hi and welcome to a new episode of the Radiant Woman podcast. Are you addicted to suffering? It is a crucial question that we all need to ask ourselves. Here it is, the first aspect. I will present several aspects this evening about signs that we are addicted to suffering and what we can do to get out of this vicious circle. If you have, the first aspect, if you have all your identity tied up to suffering, then yes, you are addicted to suffering. Some people are building up during years and years of their life an identity. We all do that. But some choose for different reasons to build up the identity of a person who suffers. It becomes their signature. It becomes their way of being. And even if it sounds paradoxical, when somebody is suffering on a constant basis, somehow they feel different, they can feel special, they feel that they matter, they feel that there is something important going on in their life. And they build their own identity around this actually victim mentality. So for them, suffering is who they are. And also this implies that it's not their fault. Somebody else makes them suffer. Somebody else is responsible for their suffering. They are just a victim. As long as we have this type of mentality, we all do have it to a certain degree, more or less, it will self-sabotage us. We need to get out of this vicious circle, and I will come up with suggestions after I go to all the aspects. The second aspect is neuroscience. It teaches us that our emotions, including suffering or happiness for that matter, these emotions are translated as chemicals in our body. The body will start manifesting this, will start producing these hormones, as for example oxytocin, which is the hormone of love and bonding, or serotonin and endorphins, the hormones of happiness or the hormones of stress, adrenaline and cortisol. So when we have the same type of emotion over and over again, our body will produce the same hormones that will create in their turn a kind of an addiction, because they are like natural chemicals, and when you have too much of it, after a while you will become addicted to it. And that will lead to, every time you have the emotion of suffering, you will have also thoughts that matches the suffering, and then the body will start triggering more of these natural chemicals, the hormones of suffering, so that it will match the emotions that you feel, and that because of the emotions you'll have the same time of thoughts. So you are in an evil circle that goes on and on and on. And in neuroscience, it is well known that what fires together wires together. So if you fire all the time this type of negative thoughts, painful thoughts and suffering as an emotion, you will build up neurocircuits in your brain that will simply, after a while, go on autopilot. The third aspect that is in connection with our addiction to suffering is an universal law. This physical world is based on laws that regulate and govern the entire creation. No matter if we know about them or not, if we believe in them or not, they are there, they function. One of these laws, it's called the law of resonance. So every time we suffer, we put ourselves into subtle resonance with the energy of suffering, and we start attracting it to us. So it's like we feed ourselves on the energies of suffering. And the bigger the suffering gets, the stronger the resonance with the energies of suffering gets. So again, we will create a vicious circle that goes on and on because we somehow fuel it with our suffering, with our emotions, with our painful states that we feel. And the fourth aspect is what it is inside of our structure, because we are very complex as human beings. We have a physical body, emotion, thoughts and intellect, a consciousness, a spiritual dimension. What it is in us that is somehow the responsible for this mechanism. What is triggering the suffering? We all heard about ego and the mind, and also you all heard about the soul. So the inner structure in us that makes us, that comes with this type of mentality of suffering, is the ego in connection with the mind. The ego, its job is to keep us in suffering, to keep us in a limited state, to keep us in a negative, destructive mentality, because did you know what's the main source of food for our ego? Suffering. So every time we suffer, you can be for sure that it's the ego which uses the mind to get on with these negative thoughts, which will trigger the suffering as an emotion. And the mechanism the ego is using is this: things don't happen the way ego wants them to happen, and it will make use of manipulation tactics, blackmail, tantrums, depending on the age. Some people throw a tantrum when they are 3 years old, and others throw a tantrum when they are 60 years old. So the ego will make us go into this destructive pattern of suffering, and it will also come with apparently logical arguments why the ego is right, why things should happen in this manner that the ego wants them to, or why people should behave in that manner that our ego wants them to. So as long as we are into this false structure of us, the ego, guaranteed it will lead to suffering. All right, what to do to get out of this vicious circle? The most efficient way is I will break it into pieces. The first step you need to do is become aware of this pattern, of this addiction to suffering, of this victim mentality, of your negative thoughts that will trigger this suffering state, the emotions of suffering. So the first step is become aware of the pattern. Become aware without judging, without blaming yourself, without starting a guilt trip. Just become aware. The second step is you need to decide. You need to use your willpower and decide enough is enough. So every time you notice that the suffering is sneaking in somehow, stop, at least stop the thought and go down from your mind, which is coming with the logical arguments why you need to suffer, why the other one is wrong, why you are right. You know, the monologue of suffering. Go down from your mind into your spiritual heart, into your soul. When you are at least a little bit, to a certain degree, in connection with your soul, the first state you will experience is peace, calm. And if you go deeper, you will feel a tremendous state of love. And you will also notice when you love, you cannot suffer. So the best antidote against suffering is an increased capacity to love. Another aspect, another practical aspect that you can do is to pull yourself back here and now into the present moment. And don't listen to this low self, the ego, which is using the mind to build up an entire narrative, an entire story, why you are entitled to suffer. Because the world is against you, other people are against you, the situation is against you. We all know how creative we can be with these so-called logical arguments why suffering it's the result of other people or other situations or the external factors that are influencing us. So every time you have the capacity to pull yourself back, all your energies, pull them back here and now, and ask yourself this simple question. Right now, this very second, do I have any problem which is so big that of course the suffering is the normal consequence? No. You will discover to your big surprise that right now, right this very moment, right this second, you have no problems. And the next step is during the day, every time you notice, you observe yourself and you notice that you went back to the monologue in your head with the negative thoughts. By the way, 95% of our thoughts are the same every single day. So of course, if you have the same painful, tormenting thoughts every single day, day in and day out, the same, we fire together and wire together very strong paths in our brain that will trigger these hormones that will make us addicted even at a chemical level to them. So every time you notice during the day that the mind is, you are identified with your mind, that the narrative is on, breathe out deeply. Become aware of your body, pull in your senses and become fully aware of your body and your breathing, and start paying attention, becoming aware of your breathing. Just don't change anything about your breathing, just be aware of your breathing. And you will notice that as long as you are aware of your breathing, you cannot think. Our mind cannot focus on two things simultaneously. It doesn't have simultaneous capacity. So either you are aware that you breathe or you are aware that you think, you have thoughts. So this is a super simple exercise, simply becoming aware that you breathe. You don't have to change the breathing or the rhythm, the depth. You just breathe in a normal pace and are fully aware of your breathing, and you'll notice the mind gets quieter and quieter, you calm down. And the best is to be able to connect yourself back to your soul as many times per day as possible. And if you want to discover how, you are welcome to my member site holisticlifehub.com. There I teach you many simple techniques that will make your life so much better. I hope that you felt inspired, that I offered you some food for your thoughts and some practical aspects that you can apply simply in your life. If you felt that this is helpful, please share. I would love to hear your comments, and you can support me by following. Until next week, I wish you many days where you are suffering free.